Welcome, bienvenidos to CPAC and a great here edition that we're having with one of my dear friends, someone who I greatly respect, someone who is a Latina superstar here in Virginia, Yesli Vega.
Hi.
Thank you for being with me.
I'm happy to be here.
Gracias por estar con nosotros. As we know, we have decided very important, something that you've done when you ran for Congress and when you ran for supervisor in Prince William County, that we're all in to ensure that Hispanic voters have a voice in this upcoming election and that we win those votes for the Republican side. Let me start, you've ran for office. You know how this whole thing goes. The Hispanic vote is growing. It is becoming more independent. It's more working, individuals who are relating more with Republicans than with Democrats. Why is this happening?
Well, folks are starting to see for themselves that Democrat policies just simply don't work. And that when you get elected and when you become somebody that's representing their interests, they can rely and trust you to do just that. And I think there's a huge contrast between Democrats and Republicans when it comes to governing and actually showing people what common sense policies can do, whether it's for their pocketbook, for their children's education, for the safety of their community. There's a huge contrast in that. And so I strongly believe that that is why we're seeing such a shift in the Latino voter, now leaning more for Republicans.
Are Republicans doing enough, conservatives doing enough to really hone in, capture that vote and say, no, you're with us, not with them?
I think that finally we are. When I first ran in 2019, it was during the blue wave, that swept so many seats.
And that was here in Virginia?
That was here in Virginia.
Okay.
I was in Prince William County. And I am the first Latina elected to Prince William County government's history. And I think that is an indication of where we are going as a party. And the future looks very promising, I believe, for the Republican Party. We have to be proactive. We have to engage. I think that the key to success is showing up.
Showing up.
And we're doing just that.
I've gotten more calls from Latinos and pastors that are saying, we are all in. What do we have to do? I do want to ask you, because Virginia, when you think of the Latino states, the Hispanic states, you think Florida, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, but Virginia, there's big play here in Virginia. And it's interesting because the Trump administration is actually saying, look, we're gonna invest here in Virginia and play in Virginia here. How can that Hispanic vote make the difference in a state like Virginia that could tilt towards Donald Trump?
Well, we saw it when Governor Youngkin was running. I was the chairwoman for, Latinos for Youngkin, and we won the Latino vote. And, getting out there and talking to this group of voters is crucial, especially going into a presidential election. And I think that it's important for us to engage, to be active, and to continue to talk about these issues and what we can bring to the table. And so for those watching at home, I say to them, get off the sidelines. We need you to help get the message out, because this is the most important election of our lifetime, Mercedes.
And we say this all the time, but this one truly is.
Yes.
And I think one of the most interesting things is when you're talking to Hispanic parents and you're saying, ¿de qué te preocupas? ¿Qué en este momento es lo que de verdad tú piensas que esto es un problema grave en esta nación? What is this most critical, worst problem that we're seeing here in the U.S.? And they are very concerned about their children.
Yes.
They are very concerned about the indoctrination of the left. We saw what happened in Loudoun County with all the gender ideology indoctrination, where parents have no rights, that the schools decide and don't need to tell parents anything. When you're on the ground, and we just finished through these Virginia election primaries, what were you hearing from Latinos that was really the main concern?
Latinos are concerned about illegal immigration.
Yeah.
You'll have a Democrat Party that will say there is no crisis at the border. You'll have a Democrat Party that will make fun of governors when they talk about the situation at the border, and they make connections to the current situation in the states that they represent, saying that that's nonsense, it's manufactured outrage. But when you're on the ground and when you're talking to Hispanic voters, it's at the forefront of the concerns that they want to talk about. You brought up a great point. The left is very strategic in how they treat the Latino voter. They don't talk about what they're doing with this whole transgender movement to Hispanic parents, because they know that the moment they do, they will be exposed for the extremists that they are, and they will lose that strong grip that they've had over the Latino voter for decades. And so Mercedes, at the end of the day, it comes down to results, right? People are seeing for themselves. You just got back from El Salvador, which is where my family is from. You did a great job at bringing Nayib Bukele to CPAC here, and we are seeing what those policies have done and continue to do for that country that was in turmoil.
Right.
And people compare that and they say, if it worked in El Salvador and if they're successful there, we need to start putting people in these seats that are going to do the same thing for us here in America.
Okay, but the reality is, yes, we did a great job of bringing Bukele, but Yesli did a great job in bringing, I don't know, it was like 100 Salvadorans to CPAC. I'm sure they were like, what is the CPAC thing? They were with their American flags, their El Salvadoran flags. It was one of the most beautiful sights. It was truly amazing. And I think that, and you were there, and Yesli, I mean, knowing that what Bukele stands for, and let me tell you, he gets a lot of criticism, especially from the left, but those people are basically saying he came in, stopped the gangs, stopped the crimes, and really is rebuilding this country. I mean, when you're talking to the Salvadorans, I mean, what's their sense of, what do they think about a Bukele, for example? What do they think about a Biden? And what do they think about a Trump?
Well, they appreciate the fact that they have somebody in charge that understands what accountability means, right? Because we hear so much about it's this group's fault, it's that individual's fault, but at the end of the day, you're at the top. And it starts and it ends with you. And you have a president that came in and took responsibility for the country's shortcoming and began to implement things that provide opportunity for people at home so that you don't have to risk your life, so that we don't have another Salvadorian drowned or murdered on their way to America. And he did that by incentivizing education and creating opportunity at home. And people make that connection here abroad. I believe that that's one of the main reasons why he secured another term. That right there is indicative that the bulk of the population is in agreement with what he's doing, and they want to see more of it.
It was tough on crime. It was ensuring economic opportunities, which is his next focus. But he also, I think, what was interesting about Bukele's speech during his inauguration, it was about glory to God. That he was really saying, you know what? I'm praying for wisdom. I'm praying for understanding. It was just, I think, a beautiful way, and he was very humble about it. I think for Salvadorians, are you feeling that here in Virginia, what's their feeling about Joe Biden?
It's a total disappointment. You know, he made so many promises when he was vying for the nomination, and when he, said, my first 100 days in office, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to deliver immigration reform. That is the same old lie that they keep feeding to Latino voters, and we're sick of it. No más. No más, and I think this is a year where Latinos are going to come out in full force, and they're going to have their voices heard at the ballot box, and no longer will our votes, Mercedes, be taken for granted.
And I think we all have a responsibility, and Yesli, we've been talking, we're launching CPAC Unidos. I'm bringing Yesli on board because I think you're definitely one of the most charismatic and just gifted, I don't want to call you a politician because I would say leader.
Public servant.
There you go, public servant in this space. Which I think is so much needed. And we're going to keep talking to you. We're going to keep you informed as to what's happening, but it is going to take an army of us Latinas and Latinos to go out to mobilize the Hispanic vote. And I think we can make a difference here in Virginia, but we're not going to stop at Virginia. We're going to go into all these different states. Yesli, you're going to stick with me, but thank you so much for joining me today on CPAC Now.